Alright friends, guess what time it is? It is oil changing time. We have these to hold up my car. You need your oil, your filter, the thing to loosen up the oil filter housing, to remove the bolt for your oil, some jacks to hold up your car, a funnel, some paper towels just in case it gets a little messy, and some gloves and something to hold in your oil, and maybe some old rags. Alright, the first thing I'll do is start jacking up my car. Once it comes to a good height, I like to add my extra protection to hold up my car. I have my jack and my jack stand together. I like to keep them both just to have extra protection. And I did forget one thing. I also like to add a piece of wood or something for my back tires, just to add security. So now I have my car jacked up on both sides. I just like to make sure that it's secure, so I just push my car a little bit, make sure there's no sudden movements, and then we're good. Okay, so time to go under. I like to start with my filter, so I'm going to remove my filter first. So this here is the filter housing. So you just need to unscrew this top part here. Okay, and you see this little nibbit here? I'm gonna have to push it in, but I'm going to use a flathead to do that. So with a flathead, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push it in and then kind of tilt it to the side so it can hold itself in there. And then I'm just gonna let this oil fall in this oil catcher pan I have and just let it drain. Once it starts to get thinner, it starts to move around. So just be cautious of that, because sometimes you might think you're just letting it drain, but it's like splashing all over the place. So just be careful that it's always on, falling on the pan here. Down to the final drops, I'm just gonna remove the housing now. So I'm gonna close this. Alright, just pop it back in the center. I have this filter clamp. Sometimes it's not really the best thing to use to remove the housing, but sometimes it does the job. Alright. So just gonna unscrew it. And just be careful not to drop oil on yourself. Okay, and we have our filter. Alright, so this is our old filter. We're just gonna take it out. Just put it somewhere. And in the inside, I have this rubber. Just gonna take it out. Alright, so we just remove this here. Just don't splash any oil on you. And then we get our new one. I know the color is different. That's just because I got a different brand this time. So what you want to do is you want to get a little bit of the oil that's already in here and just smear it. I'm just doing this with one hand because I'm holding my camera. But just smear it. Just kind of lubricate it. But you can also just dip it in there. Just get it nice and lubricated. So you see this little thing, you make sure this is facing up. And you put it back in here. Just like how you had it before. All around, make sure it's nice and snug. Okay, then you grab your new filter and you just pop it in. Just like that. And now we're just gonna put it back. I'm getting oil in my camera. That's so bad. Okay, back in the housing it goes. Just screw it in. You don't want to screw it back in too tight where you're gonna have problems unscrewing it next time you do your oil change, but just make sure it is screwed on nice enough that it won't come loose. And just put this back on. And then I just like to clean it a little bit because oil has been dripping everywhere. I'm just gonna tighten it a little bit with the filter clamp. Alright, that looks good enough. Now for the next part. Okay, so now we're gonna locate the bolt for the oil, and mine is right here for the filter, and then we got the oil right here, and this is the bolt we're gonna have to remove to release all the oil. And just make sure you have your oil can here. Oops, I almost dropped some. Make sure you have your oil can here just to be ready to catch any oil that falls out. And another thing to know is to have a pretty good size socket, nothing too small, just to make it easier for you to torque it and release the bolt. Okay, just a little bit more. And I'm just gonna unscrew it once it's loosened, but slowly. I actually have trouble not getting my hands dirty. Good thing I have gloves this time. I usually forget to wear gloves, but this time I decided to do things cleaner. Okay, so once you're in the end, you're gonna want to quickly remove it before you get oil all over you like that. Yep, always happens. Okay, so now we're just letting the oil fall. Gotta get a paper towel really quick to clean off the bolt. I like to inspect my bolt to make sure that everything's still good, just to not have any future leaks. Usually it's recommended to change your bolt, but I seem to just keep mine. Eventually I'll replace it. I don't know when, but it's good practice to replace it. Don't do what I do. If you can replace it, I recommend you do. So there's all that oil coming out. Just wait for it to come out. It might take a couple minutes for it to fully be empty, so just wait it out. Okay, so now that I have my bolt nice and clean and the final drips are coming out, I'm just gonna clean it. There might still be some oil falling out, but that's okay. I'm just gonna insert the bolt now, screw it back in. Let's get clean it. Okay, now just gonna tighten it. Okay, I'm not gonna make it too tight, just tight enough. Now I'm gonna add my oil, so I have my funnel. I'm gonna just remove this cap. Usually I would prefer to clean this with some microfiber towels, but this is what I have at the moment. Okay. So now I'm just gonna add my oil. I have my funnel ready. And you could always Google your car model and year to find out what oil you need and how much. Mine needs 6 liters, or sorry, mine needs 6 quarts. You just fill her up. I just add the whole thing for this one, and then I add another quart. And then I test out, and then I check it out and see how much oil I have. Now I'm just gonna inject my car and then drive it a bit just to make sure the oil sits, and then we can see how much oil I have. Okay, with the emptied out oil bottle, I'm gonna put the old oil in here. So now I just added the oil, so I'm gonna turn on the engine just so the oil could sit right before I check it. You have to dip it at least 3 to 4 times to get it accurate. Not too low, not too high. And that's how I like it. Awesome. So the last thing I do is I write down the miles my car currently has and the date, because that's how I keep track on when it's the next time to do my oil change. So I'm just gonna write that down, and then I'm gonna go recycle my oil at my auto shop, and that's it. That's how I do my oil change. If you're like me, you're on the road a lot, I think it's a good idea to learn how to do your own car maintenance. At least that was my motive behind it. And it's not that hard. It's actually kind of fun and relaxing, especially a day like this. It's nice to be outside. So, peace out!